Welcome in. Game Time Decisions live on SportsGrid. It is a Monday night. I'm Kevin Walsh with you for 2 hours, taking in everything that the opening week of the NCAA tournament provided. We started with 64, kind of 68. We're down to 16. The Sweet 16 is set, of course. The futures market on the move, and an updated, finally, first look at the National Player of the Tournament award market, which we will dive into and potentially be wagering in as well. You see that updated bracket. We will be expanding on this. We'll also talk to you plenty about tonight's NBA card. Joe Madden will stop by, get us her thoughts on a 2-pack of NHL as well. Dave Sharapan, deep inside hour number 2, will help us go through some of these updated futures. Again, you see the updated bracket here, and we will talk about this plenty. Of course, the live coverage picks right back up on Thursday. But I want to let people know right here off the top, and I'll say it a few times, because the Major League Baseball season starts Thursday, and I won't be here Wednesday, tomorrow is your Major League Baseball Future Show preview. Set the table. Joe Pisapia, Craig Mish, and Donnie Rightside all booked and scheduled to be here with us tomorrow on SportsGrid's Game Time Decisions. Let's just take this out view, open it up, and shift it in to the Sweet 16 and put our eyes on what remains. And what remains is a lot of chalk. All the ones and all the twos are here. The 3-seed Creighton, the 3-seed Illinois survive. We lost Kentucky in the opening round, and we lost the Baylor Bears, the only favorite, if memory serves, that lost outright in the round of 32. Kevin Walsh with you here at SportsGrid at Sirius XM, Channel 159, right here, Game Time Decisions. We're live with you on a Monday night. Just quickly setting the table. We'll dive more into this in the futures market in a moment. The biggest spread is a national championship rematch. UConn, San Diego State, a double-digit 10.5-point line is 3 points higher than any other spread on this board. The winner of this game will see the winner of Illinois and Iowa State. If UConn does beat the Aztecs, they at least will have to see one of those conference tournament champions that, of course, loaded up this East region here. A tight line that shades Cyclones 1.5. Down here in the West, Alabama makes it through, seeing North Carolina. A Sweet 16 ticket cashed. Thankfully, Kentucky, I'll never forgive you, of course, by being able to pick off a pair of great mid-majors, because that is what Alabama has done all year long. They beat Morehead State. They beat Indiana State to open up their season. They dispatched Charleston, and they were able to hang and ultimately cover in their game with Grand Canyon. How does the UNC matchup look, though? Another tight line for North Carolina. It was only 3.5 when they saw Michigan State. We're seeing a very similar matchup for the Tar Heels in their game with the Alabama Crimson Tide. A 2-6 with Arizona potentially getting a gift. And Arizona did not get to play Nevada-Dayton. They played Dayton. Nevada was the favorite in that game. And instead of playing Baylor, they see Clemson. And, of course, as we said already, Baylor, the only favorite who was dropped off. It now shows us a little bit of the pathway for Arizona opening up. It's why they sit still as the favorite in this region. Chalk at the top here, Houston and Duke. Different round of 32 games. Duke played arguably their best game of the season. Pillar to post, start to finish, dominated James Madison. A lot of people thought that JMU would not just hang inside that 7.5 point line, but went outright and very quickly were proved wrong. Jared McCain, 30 points in that matchup. Houston survives in overtime. The only real worry there was for one of these top seeds, it appeared, was the matchup for Houston and Texas A&M. Ultimately, A&M's legs, I guess, just gave out. Man, Houston, foul trouble, narrowly escaped there. Marquette with the gift, because realistically, as far as higher seedings win, Clemson's a 6. That's obviously not a walkover. Gonzaga beat the 4-seeded Jayhawks. We'll talk more about that, but Gonzaga was favorite. NC State was favored to beat Oakland. This is an 11 seed. Marquette is a 7.5 point favorite. on the early look for this matchup, and it's why the Golden Eagles' path now is really opening up for themselves here, winning, no cover though, in their game against Colorado. Here, a beautiful region. I mean, of the bunch, this is the one that you have to be most excited about. The Tennessee-Creighton game is what people were anticipating. Two schools that it feels like you put 50 in a room or put 100 in a room. 50 believe in Creighton, can't stand Tennessee, and the other can't stand Creighton, but they like this Vols team. Then again, maybe you might actually just get 100 people who don't trust either. And there's not a lot of people that trust Purdue. That leaves Gonzaga. It's a fascinating bracket. I think any team that comes out of that region is going to fully believe they can win a national championship. And rightfully so. Gonzaga's hot as anybody. Purdue looked incredible against Utah State. Vols did have to escape an hour one, and so did Creighton. But the winner goes to the Elite Eight, and it's going to be fun to break down. Let's just quickly pop up your national title odds, and we're going to use these to also work off of some of the player of the tournament markets here. Huskies down to plus 210 with UConn at advancing. A lot of the one seeds held serve here. Houston having to play Duke and then likely Marquette based on the odds has kept them at 6. Purdue drawing Gonzaga, and then if they win that, the winner of Tennessee Creighton has kept them steady as well. Arizona, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Marquette round out the group of sub 20 to 1. Iowa State, Duke, and Creighton round out the top 10 right now for the national title odds. And again, using these to work off the player of the tournament market is something I'm excited to do. Tristan Newton on the board here. We'll talk more in a moment. Let's just quickly pop up your NBA slate. It's a big board. Huge spreads, a lot of double-digit numbers here. We've got double digits in New York. I think that's the biggest one at 17. We've got double digits in Atlanta with Boston on the road. Phoenix laying a decade. I think Cleveland could be in that same range. Chicago, you better believe it. Houston, no doubt. 15 here from Denver and Memphis. A lot of ugly basketball. What a welcome back from the association. Let's be honest, a lot of you discarded this league over the last 4 days. Don't blame you. And this is what you work your way back into. There's a pair of overs and a player prop that I'm going to get involved with here on this NBA slate. World Series odds, as I said off the top, tomorrow, the Baseball Futures Preview Show. Ohtani in the news a lot in the press conference. Just put all of the blame on his translator. An interesting situation. The Dodgers sitting at plus 320. Just 4 teams, 2 from the NL and 2 from the AL, underneath 14 to 1. Underneath 10 to 1 there with the Yankees and the Astros along with Atlanta rounding out that top 4. The defending champs right here with Baltimore would round out your top 5. The quick pick, real quick, real low, 206. Charlotte and Cleveland. The Cavs and the Hornets playing over on this listed 206. The Cavs offense in a bounce back spot against this Hornets defense will take advantage. We'll do more card next right here on Game Time Decisions.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
The books have so much information. Now, the gamblers do as well, but it's coming down to sometimes coaching, sometimes a good play, a good call. I mean, the block last night that was a block, it was called a foul.
Oh, my God.
My God, that was
Dude,
all
we would
ball.
see that highlight forever.
Yes.
And instead, we
got robbed.
We'll never see it again.
Got robbed by a referee making, that's a ref.
They still covered, though.
They did. They did cover.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions. Could be granola time decisions. Just chew down a little granola bar. I feel great. I feel excited. I'm happy to be here with you on SportsGrid. How about the NBA deciding to get back in the fold? Here's what we're going to do. I got 3 on the board, few looks. I want to reset the league. Let's just go through the picks because I know you. That's what you guys want. We're on the over in Cavs Hornets 206. We talked about a great bounce back spot here for me with the Cleveland offense really struggling. Pair of games under 100, really struggling to crack 110. I know people hear that and be like, what? You're on the over? Yeah. Remember a few weeks back, or not even a week or so ago, Knicks Warriors. Knicks have played those 6 straight unders, none of these games hitting 200 points, and they flew through the number against Golden State. You got to be able to pick that spot where you can buy low, and I think that's what we have here with a 206. This number was about 204.5 when Cleveland played Miami. Way different caliber defenses here. I'm going to play the over on Cavs Hornets. I'm going to play the over on Jazz Mavs. Guys returning tonight here for Utah is keeping this total on the uptick. It was 237.5, played it at 238. Some 238.5s out in the market. Good with me. I think the Dallas defense, while it's been stepping up, could still be a tick vulnerable in this matchup with Utah seeing them twice in short order here. Flipping it to the road helps as well. The only player prop I'm on tonight is going to be Desmond Bane. Love this, though. Over 2.5 made threes at plus money, plus 100, plus 104s out there and available. Look, straight up pure, 20 and 11 on this number in games he's played without John Morant this season, which has been mostly all of them. I know Desmond Bane is working his way back from injury, but the volume's still there. He's attempted 9 or more threes in 2 out of the 3 games since returning on the season. With 9 or more attempts, he's 18 and 3. 18 and 3. Over this number, he's not hit 3+ threes in 2 straight games. It's why we're getting what I believe is a gift number here tonight. And again, especially at a plus price. I would have paid minus money for this 2.5 here. Was worried it could be 3.5. I think we've got a great discount with Desmond Bane. And for people saying, oh, you're worried about the blowout, Desmond will get shot early. We'll get his shots early. And Memphis also doesn't really have to play to the scoreboard. Their season's over, right? So I think Bane will still get whatever minutes are going to be allotted for him here tonight on the road. Speaking of Denver, I just want to check in with the NBA with everybody, okay? And let's start with this. Last time we talked, I feel that Nikola Jokic and his chance to win the MVP award was up in the air. Odds no longer suggest that. Minus 1,100 for Nikola Jokic on FanDuel Sportsbook to win league MVP. Minus 750 I saw over at DraftKings, so different shops are varying on that number. But this is something that I said was going to be the case if Denver ended up with a 1 seed. There's no more arguments to be made. SGA's having a great year, but he's not better than Jokic, right? And Jokic didn't win this last year. So the voter fatigue is not really a thing. What SGA had going for him, and SGA is great, by the way. I'm not saying he's not a great candidate. But there's not enough people that fully believe, even if there's some advanced metrics that love SGA, what's really carrying Gilgeous-Alexander here are some of the counting numbers, but the Thunder's record and the fact that they were challenging for the number 1 seed, which they still are. A half game back, tied in the loss column, 50 wins for Denver, 49 currently for Oklahoma City. But realistically here, when you take a look at this spot, Denver ended up with the number 1 seed. It's going to be too much for anyone to overcome in this market. So if you bet some of those Jokic minus 175s, heck, minus 200s, you're in a great spot here. I guess the only thing you could use is a counter. And by the way, don't bet anybody other than SGA in this lot. Do not bet anybody else than SGA. The counter would be, what if the Thunder can get on a run? Each team has a little bit more than 10 games left, 11 or 12, give or take. What if the Thunder can get on a run and end up being the 1 seed if Denver slips back and people just decide on this award with 2 weeks to go? It would be surprising. It's why I would never bet Jokic at minus 1,100. If you have Jokic tickets and want to secure profit, just play a piece of SGA. At 11 to 1, 10 to 1, you're going to be able to do that and secure some money. This 2-man race is now a 1-man race, and Jokic is going to be winning this award. Other award odds, just to give you guys an idea, minus 1,200, Rudy Gobert, minus 230 for Defensive Player of the Year, minus 230, Tyrese Maxey, most improved player. Clutch player, DeMar DeRozan's really pulled away from Steph Curry at minus 240. Minus 1050, Malik Monk finally emerges as the guy. It looks like that will win 6th Man of the Year for a while. We saw Tim Hardaway Jr. as the favorite in this market. He's now 120 to 1, the worst odds of anybody actually being booked in this market. And then Dagnall at minus 420, the Thunder's head coach, to win Coach of the Year, just to give an idea where that sits. Let's check in now with some seeding. I want to start with the West because it's a bit more important, and we'll get to the East with what time we have. But the Thunder, Denver, Minnesota, all these teams incredible, right? 4.5 games of separation from those 3 teams and everybody else. They're all from the same division, so those division odds are up if you'd like to get in the mix there. You have the Clippers at 5.5, or you have the Clippers and the Pels, what feels like also being listed in their own tier, right? They'll battle it out for home court advantage in potentially a series against one another. I'd be cautious on New Orleans, though. New Orleans has a very difficult schedule left. Now, they don't have the hardest schedule, but it's top 5. And a lot of the hard games are at home. So it depends how much you trust New Orleans in their own building. This is a team that's, home record versus road records are, from a winning percentage angle of it, they're actually a bit better on the road this season. At home, they have to play teams like Boston, like Denver, and there's going to be a lot of battles ultimately there for this New Orleans team. Plus 900 to miss the playoffs, better than 3 to 1 to make the play-in. The question would be, if you've got them to make the play-in at 3 to 1, would you want to triple that with a miss the playoff bet and hope they get eliminated in the play-in? Because here's the interesting thing. If New Orleans falls back, let's just go off of who's here. Okay, so let's just use Phoenix and Sacramento as who jumps. That's just based on where the standings sit now. That means that New Orleans would line up against Dallas in an opening round game, and we'll give New Orleans home court. But Luke and Kyrie, a lot of people would like Dallas. The line would be within reason that you could potentially move off your 9 to 1. And if you do that, and they win that game, fine, you've made money, you've profited, right? If they end up then playing the winner of Lakers-Warriors, again, New Orleans can win that game. They absolutely can. But what's the narrative going to be? What's that line going to be? And there's going to be, again, opportunity for you on that 9 to 1. It's a number to consider. But the other number to consider is the Lakers to miss the playoffs at around minus 165. Look, the Lakers are basically going to be the 9 seed. I mean, they could play some great basketball down the stretch here, but making up 3 games in the loss column to Phoenix, Sacramento, and Dallas is just not really something I'm buying into. Golden State won't catch them. The Warriors are closer, actually, right now to falling out of the play-in than catching the Lakers, which is incredible. But if the Lakers are going to be the 9, that means that they have to win 2 games to get in. And yes, the first game they'll be favored in, but if they're playing Golden State, we saw that line the other day. It was about 3 points, and they lost. And if they don't lose that game, guess what? They got to win another one, and it's on the road against Dallas, Sacramento, Phoenix, New Orleans. I mean, really, what's the scenario you would love? Somehow the Clippers falling back? That way, at least it's a sneaky home game? But is that realistic? And again, the most unbiased man in the history of sports media. It's not a gimmick. It's not a joke. Lakers to miss the playoffs is a look. I'm not placed it yet. I'm considering it, though. Again, I thought it might be closer to minus 200. This is a play-in Laker team. And it's hard to see them getting up to the 8-7. They get up to the 8-7, it changes the equation. But if they're going to sit 9, I don't think they're going to be able to win 2. I just don't. Do you trust them to take those 2 games? It's hard to. It's hard to right now. Eastern Conference-wise, Celtics in a runaway. This team could lose out. So give them all the credit in the world for that. They've won 9 in a row again. 32-3 at home. We know the story on the Celts. We know the story. Got to win the title. That's all it comes down to. Got to make the finals. Got to make the finals. Got to make the finals. No excuse if they're not in the NBA Finals. We know that. Milwaukee should get through that win total, 50.5. They need 5 more wins with 11 to play. So we're happy about that. Knicks could get up to the 3. Magic feel like they're in distance. The schedule's a little hard, though, for Orlando. And more importantly, the schedule's really light for Miami, who own a tiebreaker over the Magic. Keep eyes on that. Miami's not out of that Southwest Division just yet. So is that the Southwest Division? See, I lost all the Southeast Division, excuse me. Obviously. Come on, K-Dubs. Southeast Division there. So don't be surprised if Miami creeps back into that race. Philly continuously slept on. We'll see if we ever get a real word that Embiid is coming back. That's where the NBA sits. 3 picks on the board. More game time decisions next.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The books have so much information. Now, the gamblers do as well, but it's coming down to sometimes coaching, sometimes, a good play, a good call. I mean, the block last night that was a block, it was called a foul.
Oh my God.
That was
Dude,
all
we would
ball.
see that highlight forever.
Yes.
And instead, we
got robbed.
We'll never see it again.
Got robbed by a referee making, that's a ref.
They still covered, though.
They did. They did cover.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart teams.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions live on a Monday night. Joe Ranieri in the fold. Joe, we'll look back. We'll look ahead. But first, how excited are you tonight to lock into the NBA, a sport that I think a lot of people are under the impression took a vacation for the last 4 days?
Yeah, no, listen, I mean, there is nothing more exciting, Kev, than looking at a card filled with, I don't know, Knicks laying 17, for instance.
17.
The Phoenix Suns laying 14 and a half. I mean, these are the kind of nights that dreams are made out of here in the association, in which some teams have already made tee times and booked cruises, while others are trying not to get hurt and limp into the playoffs. It's a wonderful time.
I will say a lot of people heading into Sunday's college slate due to the favorite domination said, well, that won't happen again. Whoops. Maybe tonight you just round robin every dog on this NBA board. The payouts would be ridiculous because almost all of these games have double-digit spreads. So, again, a great night from the association. Then again, it could be worse. You could be Major League Baseball, and instead of attacking this vulnerable nothing's going on window, you could do opening day either a week ago or up against the NCAA tournament, Joe. But again, we know baseball always gets those kind of things correct.
Yeah. No, honestly, the schedulers this year, a fantastic job of really coming together across all sports and trying to figure out what the best approach is. I mean, we've got 11 games tonight in the association. We'll have 4 tomorrow. Then we're going to have 12. Then we're going to have 2. It literally is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. How about the NHL? Is that a window of opportunity? Yep, here's 2 games. So, look, that's just how it goes. That's how it goes.
Yep.
All right, so let's look back towards some of the weekend stuff, Joe, and I'll see what surprised you, what encouraged you, and then we'll see what lands in the middle. And I'll start with this. North Carolina, a lot of people decided we're losing to whoever they saw in that 8-9 game, and then Michigan State looked good. We were like, oh, my gosh, I mean, Sparta to win the title. North Carolina beat a team who's barely beaten any good teams all year long, but I was expecting it. I don't know where you were on the game, so it hasn't changed my perception of UNC too much. What did you make of the North Carolina-Michigan State game? UNC draws, of course, Bama in that Sweet 16 matchup.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I was one of those, Kev, that I have been buying tickets for North Carolina in every possible future market because I'm a big believer in this North Carolina team. I think they have the perfect mix of experience, perfect mix of guard play along with some bigs. I think they match up very well to some of the better, some of the other number ones here. And so I was amazed with that line on Michigan State when it was down to 3.5, and I'm scratching my head going, wait, you do realize, like, Michigan State, like, it hasn't been, I mean, you do realize they're the fraud here, and yet North Carolina's a 1 seed, taking on a 9 seed, is only laying 3.5. I thought it was a gift. I didn't overthink it. I love North Carolina. I like North Carolina out of the West bracket. But I am a little shocked with the hate for North Carolina, and I guess I'm okay with it because the more you hate them, the more I can get a better number on backing them here each and every game from here on out.
Yeah, and again, you see it right there, a 3.5-point spread against Bama. What I'd say is Bama's earned that number a lot more than Michigan State has. Now, Bama got to play a pair of mid-majors to get to this round. For me, and we've talked about this a little bit last week, Joe, this is what Bama has done all year. These really good mid-majors, and they're really good, Bama cracks them. Now, the elite in college has been tough for them. But when you talk about, we always talk battle-tested, Joe. It doesn't really maybe matter if you lose a lot of the games, but Bama has seen every great team in this country. All of them from the SEC, out of conference, nobody tested themselves more than Nate Oates' group. Do you have an early read on UNC Bama? I think it's a nice matchup for both teams. I personally have some tickets involving the both.
Yeah, this is also hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. We're talking about an Alabama team as a 4 seed who is elite offensively. When if you know which team is going to show up, but couldn't stop you and me out on the court by just ourselves defensively. Right. Oh yeah, and let's talk about this team for a second here. They play extremely fast. They don't stop anybody. And when we look this year here, am I correct here? They lost to Purdue, Creighton, Arizona, and went 1-4 against the SEC's top 3 teams. So thank goodness they played 2 mid-majors to get to this point so Bama fans have something to celebrate. Because what they are about to walk into right now is exactly what Purdue, Creighton, Arizona, Auburn, Baylor, the top teams in your conference, they can't beat the good teams. They beat up against the bad teams. This is not one of those games. They are going to come out on top.
It is, hard to disagree. It would probably be silly to disagree with anything that Joe just said. Here's what I would say, though, with North Carolina. Of the potential matchups in this game, this is the most difficult of them. Because either Charleston or Grand Canyon would be completely outclassed, and St. Mary's can't score with UNC. They have 7 losses this year, the Tar Heels. 6 of the 7 teams have scored 80. Obviously, Bama can score 80. St. Mary's was never scoring 80 if they got to this game. It's, again, why Michigan State, or Mississippi State for that point, we're never beating North Carolina, and we're now here. What's interesting, though, Joe, is the region's favorite is still Arizona. A pair of wins, a pair of losses against the number, and would you look at that, only one upset in the round of 32, and it was the Baylor Bears, which now sends Clemson to play Arizona. It's the first time I feel that the Wildcats' status as favorites is justified, if only because, according to the books, Arizona's more likely to be in the Elite Eight game than UNC. I'm curious what you think about Arizona's path and their potential draw in this West region.
Yeah, so listen, Arizona, and I've said it all year long, if the real Arizona team shows up, they're winning the national championship. I don't even think UConn or anybody would be able to get in their way. The problem and the challenge here with Arizona is trying to figure out which version of them you're going to get at any particular moment. I think Caleb Love is an absolute ticking time bomb. Now he had a terrible game last time, but his team picked him up. But again, that was against what? Dayton? You beat Long Beach State and you beat Dayton. Congratulations. I've also watched this team lose games they shouldn't throughout the season to inferior opponents. So I am not trusting Arizona as a favorite in anything. And I think any team that can be built around slowing them down, quality guard plays, can bounce around in the middle with a couple of big men, has a really good chance of upending Arizona. They're the best team on paper in this tournament. The problem is good luck trying to figure out when they're going to show up.
I think to Joe's point, he was not great really against Long Beach State, but also who cares?
Right.
Against Dayton, he was amazing for 7 minutes. And then maybe the worst player on the floor for the remaining 33. And I don't, because we were doing the Bracket Central show, Joe, during that game live, myself, Coach, and Scott. He got benched. They went on a 10-0 run. I know it because I was sitting on they do the live specials. It was Arizona 10 consecutive. So I know it. They benched him. They went on a 10-0 run. He came back in and forced up every shot. The ceiling, though, you talk about is if they meet whoever, and because he's going to have one great game, you'd imagine. The dream scenario, right? Pair of guys with North Carolina tickets. Is he lights? I mean, I guess the dream scenario is they just lose to Clemson. He lights up Clemson. Yeah, that's 6 of 19 next round. That's just how that's how that's going to look, most likely from him. I'm curious, Joe, with the Baylor upset, it was the only one, but it's been so chalk, right? And I think when we look at it, there were some bad teams that got in, and that was a big talking point here. Does the idea of it's been chalk so far say to you, Sweet 16 could be riddled with upsets?
No, not really. I think one thing's got nothing to do with the other, right? Because I do think that, listen, everyone stuck a fork in the Pac-12 this year, and the Pac-12 has represented pretty well in this tournament. We all propped up the SEC. I heard how great the SEC was all year long, and how is the SEC? How they
Not
doing
good.
it? So I think eventually with this tournament, some years it takes a little bit longer than others. This happens to be where in the round of 64, yes, you exposed a couple of frauds from the big conferences. But when we got to 32, and I think now that we're going to be at 16, the cream is going to rise to the top, period. And it's not going to be a shocker if we have 3 or 4 number 1 teams in the Final Four battling for a national championship.
I think what's interesting, and we'll expand on this in a moment, Joe's not going anywhere, luckily. Unless, I don't know, maybe he does, which would be unfortunate. Then I'd be all alone. You never know with the veneer schedule. He might have to host another show on this network while we're live here. Are we finding out that some of these teams are closer to those 3-1 seeds? We'll talk about that a little bit more next right here on Game Time Decisions.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The books have so much information. Now, the gamblers do as well, but it's coming down to sometimes coaching, sometimes, a good play, a good call. I mean, the block last night that was a block, it was called a foul.
Oh my God.
That was
Dude,
all
we would
ball.
see that highlight forever.
Yes.
And instead, we
got robbed.
We'll never see it again.
Got robbed by a referee making, that's a ref.
They still covered, though.
They did. They did cover.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're live right here on SportsGrid. It's Game Time Decisions. Myself and Joe just, talking a little bit about the weekend that was, talking about our good friend Donnie Rightside. Donnie will be on the show tomorrow to help us get set for the baseball season. And as much as I feel that Joe is just going to give me a sarcastic answer which rips baseball, I'm going to still ask anyway, partly because I prefer ripping baseball. They deserve it. But I'm curious, Joe, for someone like yourself who bets everything and follows everything, few people in this business have as good of a handle on as many things as you do. How are you going to approach opening day, baseball futures, the start of this upcoming season, which is Thursday around noon Eastern?
It's actually easy. I'm just going to follow whatever Ohtani bets, and we'll see how that goes. No, too soon. Too soon. Okay.
How did I fall into that
sorry.
trap? I really fell right into that. I go, this
Wasn't
is
sure.
great. He actually has an answer. I can't believe I fell hook, line, and sinker. Like, what is this, my first time talking to Joe? That's crazy. I feel like an idiot.
It was
I'm
nice
be
of you to
honest
set it
with
up.
you. I feel like an idiot.
I can't. Yep, I'm going with Ohtani, baby. That's it. Just give me what Ohtani's got. Oh, not his interpreter. Whatever his interpreter has is where I'll go.
Oh, jeez. Oh, man.
Yep.
There you go.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Kev.
That worked. With that said, college basketball, I'm just going right off of it, man. Oh, that was the best. That got me good. All right, here's my question to you. The Midwest region is the only one where the 4 best teams all advanced, right?
Yes.
With respect to San Diego State, Auburn's better. Obviously, NC State sitting there in the South. And then nobody would say Clemson was the best possible option from that other portion of it, even if they did beat Baylor and deservedly beat Baylor. Right. So you sit there and I stare at it, and nobody was given a gift. Is Purdue better than Gonzaga? Yes, they've already beaten that team this year. Gonzaga, I think right now, maybe other than UConn, playing the best basketball in this country. Tennessee and Creighton. You ask anybody, they probably either don't trust both or really, really dislike the other, which is going to maybe inform what they do in that game. How are you lining up the Midwest region right now?
It's going to be interesting. I really think. I think the whole Gonzaga as a 5 seed taking on Purdue is fascinating. And don't forget, we did see the Zags this year. They lost, I believe, to Purdue. They lost to UConn. And they lost to San Diego State, ironically enough. But I will say that was not during this recent stretch. The Zags were a team this year that it took them a little while to put the new pieces together. And along the way, they did lose to the bigger, the UConns, the Purdue's, teams that had more experience than they did, right? They didn't look good, and we all stuck a fork in them right up until about, I would say maybe about 45 days ago or so, where they really started to hit the stride. When they beat Kentucky, that was kind of the light switch that went off, and, we all should have, took notice and been like, wait a minute, what's going on? Because from that point on, this team has been destroying people, and this looks much like the Gonzaga teams of old that were number 1 seeds and made it would take out teams you think are better than them. So would I be shocked if the Zags ended up going on beating Purdue and then, had to face Marquette? I would not be shocked if the Zags, as a 5 seed, now I will say this, no 5 seed has ever won a national championship. 1 seeds, 2 seeds, 3 seeds, 4 seeds, 6 seeds, 7 seed, 8 seeds. We've never had a 5 seed win a championship. But I do think the Zags present a very interesting matchup against Purdue in this spot. So if they beat Purdue, at what point do we become believers here, Kev? Because you do realize Matt Painter's still on the sideline for Purdue, right?
Right, so a few things. Look, Painter few is, come on, let's just call it what it is. That's a huge advantage Gonzaga. 2, maybe this is silly, but if the stat was nobody worse than a 4 seed had ever won the title, you'd be like, oh, okay.
Right.
But when 6, 7, and 8 have them, you go, okay, well, a 5 seed's going to win one of these things. That's just reality.
Sooner or later.
Because 5 is good enough. And this Gonzaga team, and it's probably going to be a team who needs to be better than their seed line. Gonzaga is clearly better than their seed line. Like, I know McCullough wasn't there. They were laying about 5 by close to Kansas. McCullough's not worth 7 points. That game was close, and Zags is the favorite, no matter what. So that, it kind of gives you an idea. And, the other thing, too, Joe, and maybe it's because I've had a closer eye on this team because, I was wondering if they were getting into the tournament. But I look at the starting 5, and it's awesome. I mean, Nembhard and Hickman is a backcourt that you can buy into, right? Ike and Ben Gregg, the ability to stretch it or put it inside. And Anton Watson has been there forever. A lot of these Gonzaga leaderboards now it's him, Stockton, and Timmy, right? Because they were there just forever. And that's just the way that stuff looks. It's very interesting. But I'll throw this out on the Purdue side. Let's just say I put Purdue in the Final Four, right? Which is not an assumption, but if I do. So do you think that Zach Edey needs to win the title in order to win player of the tournament? It's a market that's just come out. And the more I think about it, right, so the last person to do it was Hakeem, which is we're talking 40 some odd years now. But if Zach Edey finishes this tournament, 27-15, 3 blocks, 70% from the field, can he win this without winning the title?
No, he can't. I think, well, first of all, he's the reigning player of the year. He's probably, has a good shot at, getting every other award known to mankind here. But all of that is fine when you have another year to come back, right? And, we think that you'll have another opportunity to redeem yourself. When you're of that stature and that level, and you've already won Player of the Year in college, right? Then the only other option for you is win it all. Win it all, and we give you everything. We build a children's hospital after you. But if you don't, if you fall short again, well, then the accolades are over. It's just a reality. Fair or not fair.
I think he has to get to the title game as a minimum. And then it depends who's on the other side of the floor. I'm going to talk a little bit later on about some value with UConn in the market. But if UConn wins it, their whole starting 5 is interesting, right? So, again, he has to get to the title game as a minimum and then play great in the title game. There's a lot of bars you have to clear in order for that to happen. Okay, so then what's left for us, Joda, is to bring up this South region. And Houston was the 1 seed that looked the most vulnerable in their game against A&M. But I'd also argue they play the toughest team in Texas A&M. Marquette is playing NC State, and nobody in the world is going to pick NC State to win outright, I think. And I'm not saying that here comes NC State. And no, NC State has no business beating Marquette. They have no business in this tournament. They got hot. They were able to beat Texas Tech, and then they were given it a 14 seed because Kentucky is a disaster right now. So, and then oh, by the way, Duke's in the region, still sitting there. Do you have a handle on the South region with what's left?
So I think Marquette it's ironic because they're a 2 seed, and yet nobody really gives them any chance at all. They lost 3 times this year to UConn, and that was pretty much it. They've literally beat everyone else. They have a coach that has been to a Final Four before. They have experience, and I don't think it's a stretch to say they have the best guard left in the tournament on this team. And I wasn't sure about Marquette when he got back, Kolek, because I'm like, what? He's been gone a month. You just can't drop the kid. It doesn't work that way, right? There could be an adjustment period at which point they already could be down 20 and they lose. But what this kid showed me coming in, playing a couple of games that he has, is that he is really good at setting everybody else up. And the fact is, Kev, his time away, giving the other kids on his team an opportunity to get their groove, this is one of the most dangerous teams left in the tournament nobody is talking about here. And they're a 2 seed, but again, they're always going to play second fiddle to anything UConn or anybody else for that matter because they couldn't beat them. But that's the only team they haven't beaten. And my goodness, I don't think Tennessee stands a chance in that game. Go 3 of 23 again. Dalton, go ahead, Tennessee. Shoot 4 of 24 from 3-point range, and let me know how many you're going to lose by to this Marquette team.
I think that would be a Final Four game, though, Joe, which I would
That's
take.
right. That's exactly what it can. And it can't, because I don't like Creighton. I think Creighton is another one of these teams. If they don't have a 3, it's over, right? So I see Marquette with a really good chance of making it to the Final Four here. And then it's going to get really interesting from that point. And even as a 2 seed, which sounds crazy, but if they make it to the Final Four and they handle their business along the way, going to be real interesting. We got to take Marquette, I think, a little more serious. And Illinois, for that matter.
Well, okay, so I think Illinois is really interesting. I'll say, again, we were doing the show. Kolek looked not just the best player on the floor in the game, miles better than the next closest player. And KJ Simpson's going to play in the NBA, the lead guard for Colorado. And Cody Williams is going to be a lottery pick as well. A little different his role in Colorado to the NBA, but you get the point. So that's the thing. If this team is matched up with either Houston and Jamal Shed, you like your chances with Kolek winning that battle.
Absolutely.
I know Duke's got this deep starting backcourt, but none of them are as good as Tyler Kolek. And, that's why you see Kolek right there is at 21-1. He's one of those guys whose price is very, very similar to the Marquette National title odds because while Cam Jones is playing great basketball, like Joe's making the point, Kolek's out, 2 games, getting 20 and 10. Probably with 5 rebounds as well. It's incredible. You mentioned giving Illinois more respect. Terrence Shannon Jr., look, it's a little bit odd whenever you bring the name up because of why he was suspended this year. But we're into the Sweet 16, Joe. He's averaging 27 points per game over his last 14 games. That's a very, very, very long time. And if he was averaging 27 a game for a full year, he might have won National Player of the Year. This team won a Big Ten tournament. So, so often, everyone talks about guard play. Everyone talks about guard play and then took the Kentucky guards that don't start. God, I hate this team, and I can't believe I put any money on them to make the Sweet 16. Illinois has the reason why people don't talk about their guard play is their guards are 6'5" in Shannon Jr. and Domask.
Yep. Yeah, and by the way, they are one of the most experienced teams in college basketball. Don't forget Hawkins, Shannon. They were like, "Now we're coming back." Like they could have went to the draft last year, and they purposely wanted to come back here. Listen, I think this is going to tell you everything you need to know with this game coming up against Iowa State. Everyone's talking about defense. I don't think defense matters. I think when you're a team like Illinois who can just drop 80, 90 points on anybody, even on an off night, it's not really that off. I don't trust Iowa State offensively. I don't think they're going to have enough against the better competition to score enough to win a national championship. Illinois does, even on maybe not a great shooting night. They still are dangerous.
Awesome stuff there from Joe Ranieri. We'll close out the opening hour next here on SportsGrid.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
The books have so much information. Now, the gamblers do as well, but it's coming down to sometimes coaching, sometimes, a good play, a good call. I mean, the block last night that was a block that was called a foul.
Oh, my God.
My God, that was
Dude,
all
we would
ball.
see that highlight forever.
Yes.
And instead, we
got robbed.
We'll never see it again.
Got robbed by a referee making, that's a ref.
They still covered, though.
They did. They did cover.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart teams.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions live with you on a Monday, hour number 2 in less than 3 minutes, top of the hour. Joe Madden stops by. We've got 2 on the ice tonight, so we'll hit those. It'll be good to reset everything going on in the NHL. We're going to have Joe Lisi joining us, a big part of Bracket Central this past weekend. Some of his thoughts on the tournament, some futures markets odds, and things of that nature. Also getting set for NFL draft season. The NBA getting center stage focus on tonight's card. I'll go through my picks once again, but first, let's get Davis Maddox's same-game parlay.
All right, guys, we are back for another NBA same-game parlay over on FanDuel with March Madness taking a small rest. We are going to take the Los Angeles Clippers minus 6 points at home to the Indiana Pacers as our first leg. We are also going to combine that with the under on 233 points. The Clippers are steadying the ship a little bit, and one thing that's been very apparent with Russell Westbrook out is they are actually going to struggle against very good defenses because they're not able to generate those bench opportunities, but against bad defenses, the Clippers lineup tends to maintain pretty steady. They're able to keep their offense going even when James Harden is not on the court. So I think the under definitely is in play here. The Pacers, I don't imagine, are going to be able to score against that larger Clippers defense, and I like this spot quite a bit for the Clippers. And we are going to add a third leg. We're going to take Paul George to score 20 or more points in this game. He's got a very nice size advantage on Aaron Nesmith and the other wings that the Indiana Pacers play. This 3-leg same-game parlay is going to give us plus 324 odds. Clippers minus 6, under 233, and Paul George to score 20 or more points in this game. Good luck tonight, everybody.
Tangy, little under, little PG 20+. Not bad there from Davis Maddox. I have an over in the game between Cleveland and Charlotte, 206. That's coming up soon. I also have the over in Dallas, Utah, playing that at 238. And then the favorite tonight is Desmond Bane over 2.5 made threes in the matchup between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Denver Nuggets. Coming up next, the NHL breakdown with Joe Madden. We have 2 games, and then we have some league-wide specials on 3 of the best players in this league, McKinnon, McDavid, and Matthews. We'll break it down next right here on SportsGrid. We're back in less than a minute. We are live on SportsGrid, Game Time Decisions. It is a Monday night. I'm Kevin Walsh with you, and joining us now is Joe Madden. Joe, a busy weekend full of college basketball. I am sure, though, you remain locked in on the NHL slate, and we're hitting 2 games tonight. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Kevin. Yeah, it was an exciting weekend out there on the ice as well as in college basketball. Some great games. So looking forward to tonight's slate. Only 2 games, but don't worry. We've got 12 tomorrow, Kevin.
Cannot wait to go through all of the NHL. And also, Joe will join us throughout baseball as well. Joe Madden, a big baseball bettor. We'll get to that when there's time. But let's start it off here with the games, then we'll get to some of the specials markets. St. Louis and Vegas, the Golden Knights, better than minus 150 on the road in this game. Total 6.5, but the juice right now is pushing towards the under, Joe. How are you playing this first game?
Yeah, rightly so, this one pushing towards the under, because you look at the goaltending matchup here. Logan Thompson is in net for the Vegas Golden Knights, and the St. Louis Blues giving the start to Jordan Binnington. I think both of these goaltenders can absolutely stand on their head tonight. Looking at Jordan Binnington, he has a 2.85 goals against average and a 912 save percentage. His save shots on goal tonight, Kevin, is just too low at 29.5, so I am looking for him to be able to go over that number. The last time versus Vegas was able to put up 48 shots on him. He did allow 5 to go in, but stopped 43 of those. So 29.5 seems too light. Now, the St. Louis Blues, I do think, will stand up more defensively in this one, but I'm still expecting Vegas to hit closer to the 35 shots. In this game, though, I think all the value is sitting here with the St. Louis Blues. We look at these two teams. St. Louis is trailing Vegas for that last wild card spot by 4 points. They desperately need this win. And this is a team that is so much stronger on their home ice than they are out there on the road. They've won 5 of their last 6 home games, and this team's home record sitting 21, 12, and 1. I do think they have every opportunity to be able to pull off the win, but it's not going to be easy out here versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas is losing grasp of the wild card spot. They desperately do want to make a repeat here. If they'll have enough, I'm not sure if they will, Kevin, but I do think this game is so tight that it goes to OT. We've already seen one of these matchups so far this season. Of the 2 games that they've played go to overtime, this one to go to overtime is coming in at plus 350. I also like the game to go under 1.5 in that first period. I do think defense and goaltending is the name of this game tonight. So give me the under 1.5 in the first period. Give me the St. Louis Blues on the money line, as well as this game to go to overtime at that plus 350 mark.
All right, we are set up there for game number 1, Vegas and St. Louis. Of course, our radio audiences here on a Monday night, Sirius XM, channel 159, all across the SportsGrid network. Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh talking to Joe Madden about a 2-game of NHL slate here. And, Joe, the second game, it's Vancouver and L.A. The Kings are a road dog, as you would anticipate here, but not by a lot. Only plus 104 on their money line here at the moment, maybe dropping just a tick. 5.5 is your over-under. What do you like in this game?
This is another game where it's going to be tight, Kevin, right out of the gate. I do look at this one to be a slow start of these offenses here. I'm going to take the no goal in the first 10 minutes. So no goal in the first 10 minutes coming in at nice plus money. Now, I'm not sure if I trust Casey DeSmith enough in net for the Vancouver Canucks for this full game to stay under that total. So I'm going to stay off the full. But I do expect the defense here of the Vancouver Canucks to do enough to start this one. And you look at Cam Talbot. Cam Talbot is expected in goal for the LA Kings. No confirmation yet. His road record versus the Canucks in Vancouver is phenomenally strong. He rolls in 4-2-2 in those 8 games with a 2.01 goals against average and a 923 save percentage. So I am counting on Cam Talbot to do what he's done before in Vancouver, which is stand on his head. And then Casey DeSmith in this one to do enough in that first period to really limit the LA Kings. Now you're looking at 2 defenses that are phenomenally strong out there. The LA Kings only allowing that average of 2.54 goals per game. 3rd best overall in the league. And you look at the Vancouver Canucks, 2.63, which is the 4th. Both of these teams have strong kills as well out there on the ice. So the no goal in the first 10 minutes at plus 106. And then I am looking at the Kings here on the money line. I love the plus money that we're getting on them at plus 112. They have one of the best road records of any team in the league, going 20-11 and 4 on the road. I think you could also lean to the under 1.5 in the first period, but I don't like it as as much as that no goal in the first 10. And then another game here. Too much is on the line between these two teams. We have the LA Kings sitting third in the Pacific and the Vancouver Canucks on their long homestands here sitting first. I do think this is another opportunity to go to overtime. Now, depending on your books, that's coming in anywhere from plus 330 to plus 350. And I do think this is going to be tight to the very end, Kevin. And that's another reason with this one being a 5.5 that I just can't look at the full game to the under, even though I do lean there, because this could get tied up 3-3, pushes to that over and go into OT here.
All right, Joe, I want to ask you now about some of the league specials with the time we have left here around the NHL and their top superstars. And one that's been talked about and continuously moved down is Nathan MacKinnon to record 1+ point in each of 41 Avalanche home games. Obviously, if this is up, he's still done it. There are 7 remaining. It is plus 300. Is that a worthwhile bet for hockey bettors?
It absolutely is. You look at Nathan MacKinnon here, and even more motivation for him right now with Nikita Kucherov and him battling it out for the leading goal scorer leading point scorer on the season. So I do think looking at him at plus 300, so much value here. His teammates and him do know that he is chasing this number and has every opportunity of cashing. So I would look at Nathan MacKinnon at plus 300. I think you're getting great odds there.
And I think you could probably find under half a point if it gets down towards the back stretch of the season and potentially look towards the under. Joe, what about Austin Matthews? They have up 65-plus goals, 70-plus goals, and then a big number on 75-plus goals here. Of course, it has slowed down a bit for Austin Matthews, still the league leader, sitting at 58. How high do you think Matthews could get with his goal tally?
I think he can get to that 70 number, Kevin. That's the number I feel most confident with. I think if anything, it's probably hitting right around that 72 mark. 75, just a little bit too ambitious. But you look at Austin Matthews, and he is chasing those records. He's another player that is so strong and so competitive out there. They also have him playing up to his opponents. He plays down in some of those lower games, but you look at the schedule so far for the rest of the season out, and he's really going to have to make a difference in these matchups. And I do think 72 goals, so I would take the 70-plus goals on the season.
And then, Joe, the last one here is McDavid for 110-plus assists at plus 370. He's currently at 91. I believe 14 games remain for Edmonton.
As a Flames fan, I say absolutely not. I don't want to see Connor McDavid get to that number. As a bettor, though, I don't know if he does, Kevin. I think there's going to be a point he steps up, he starts getting these goals himself further down the stretch. So I wouldn't take his assist to the over.
All right, still some plus money out there, Joe. We appreciate it as always. We'll be right back. Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The books have so much information. Now, the gamblers do as well, but it's coming down to sometimes coaching, sometimes, a good play, a good call. I mean, the block last night that was a block, it was called a foul.
Oh my God.
That was all
we would
ball.
see that highlight forever.
Yes.
And instead,
got robbed.
We'll never see it again.
Got robbed by a referee, making that's a ref.
They still covered, though.
They did. They did cover.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart teams.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back with you here on SportsGrid. It's Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh, joined by Mr. Clemson himself, Joe Lisi. Joe, ready for this? How did it feel to watch the Tigers take down the Bears?
Oh, feeling good, Kev. That was a smash
Yeah.
special. Never even needed the 4.5. Unbelievable. Plus 152 at the start of the tip. Money line. How about them Tigers? They stepped up. Go Big Orange.
Now, if I know Joe Lisi, I'm just looking right now. First game of the round of Sweet 16, Arizona Clemson, plus 6.5. Have you already? Is there a sizzle on the board, or you got to let it come to you?
Yeah, I have to break this game a little bit down, a little bit deeper. I love the kid Hall. I love the way their bigs played against Baylor. Again, Arizona, I'm not big on. I think they're a glass house. I know they're, playing well right now heading into this matchup, but I still might take the points with the Clemson Tigers. Even though this line is indicative of potentially Arizona, I might take the points with Clemson and even sprinkle it on the money line.
Now, I want to take a second here because Bracket Central was live throughout the weekend, and we were, in studio from 12 to 8 between the days. It was a lot of fun. I was with the early crew, Joe was in that middle crew, and I know the both of us spent a lot of time looking at those live markets. And, like Joe and I both, we love to fire, we love opportunities, but, we're invested, we're involved, and you all of a sudden can find some value. You can get an idea where these markets move, because, look, these markets are not available on a February, Saturday, Sunday slate. They're just not. So I'm curious, Joe, how did you find the live betting specials? Because I know you were enjoying getting involved with those throughout the 4 hours of coverage you did Saturday and, of course, Sunday as well.
Yeah, for me, it was Saturday was much better, Kevin. I told Ben yesterday I was shocked at the line movement, especially in that 5:30 slate on Saturday between Michigan State and North Carolina. The line fluctuated so much, Kev. 3.5 pre-tip in favor of Carolina. They fall behind, but they were down by 5. It was basically a pick-em, right, with about 13 minutes left in terms of the first half. You could have caught North Carolina when they were down 12 at a plus 8.5 number, almost plus 280 to 3-1 in terms of a money line. It was ridiculous in terms of how that line fluctuated. Which conversely is, you look at the Washington State-Iowa State line, Iowa State falls behind 7-0. They trail for the first 10 minutes of that half, and they still were a minus 280 as high as a minus 400 money line winner. in terms of that. That just goes to show you how the algorithm valued Iowa State versus Washington State and how much the algorithm bought into Tom Izzo and Michigan State. And I told you what I did in terms of the late window. Texas I took at 6-1 at halftime. You could have gotten Texas when they were down 5 with the ball with 3 minutes left. They got as high as 25-1 on the money line. They didn't win it, but they gave me the cash out almost 2.5-1 on the 6-1 bet. What would you have gotten on the 25-1 number?
You're walking home with half of it, right? And that's again why you follow those live markets. And I know, for you, the decision to cash out there, I guess, mid-game came to your senses. This Rick Barnes team has something. Oh, I'm serious, though, because you bet against Tennessee and it ultimately works out.
Right.
They're matched up with Creighton. I don't know what you think of this Creighton team. I don't like them very much. Is that a game you've got a feel for yet?
No, not yet, because I'll tell you why. And whenever you back these teams that live and die by the 3, you're praying that the momentum continues early on, right? And that is the one thing in terms of Creighton, why they've bowed out in recent years is that they were just cold. Now, I will say this. I do not love Rick Barnes and Tennessee in terms of a Sweet 16 type of matchup because they fail to live up to expectations. We saw this throughout the regular season. They bow out of the SEC tournament. They're laying 11.5 to a gutless Missouri team. They win but don't cover. Down the stretch, they failed to cover a number of big spreads. So that is always a concern. I'd rather bet this game maybe from an in-game perspective once I get a feel in terms of how Creighton comes to play. Because if the 3s are dropping early, I think Creighton could beat them.
Yeah, look, Creighton's ability to hit 3 gives them a chance against anyone. I'll admit that. I just don't like this team. I don't. I'll say I've started looking at this national player, the tournament market, and I'll expand on this in a bit. But the big 3, Shireman, Alexander, and Kalkbrenner, are all 65-1. And I would say at the moment, Kalkbrenner's probably played the best. Shireman's probably played the worst, but it's close. The most important games in determining that for the trio will be moving forward, not looking backwards. If you feel strongly about one of those guys, I think that's going to matter. I'll say on Joe's Clemson Tigers, which for me, that's exactly what they are now. Chase Hunter, who's got 20-plus in each of the first 2 games, is booked at 210-1 to win player of the tournament. You compare that to P.J. Hall, who's down here at 130-1. And I understand that, again, they're not going to hand this out entirely just based on what somebody did in the matchup against New Mexico, did in the matchup against Baylor. But these Clemson games were important, right? Ultimately, what Donovan Clingan does against Stetson doesn't matter as much as what Chase Hunter does in a game against New Mexico, where they're catching points. And, Joe, that's one of the fascinating things about this market is who they're putting the respect on. And again, Chase Hunter with 20-plus in each of their first 2 games at 210-1 is a number where he's not getting any respect in this market.
No, you're right. I think you play this market based on who you feel is going to come through in terms of the Final Four, right? If you have another team like a team that I don't have in the Final Four, I'll just give you an example. How about the kid McCain last night? I mean, 6 of 8 to start from 3. That type of work, if he continues that hot shooting and Duke makes it to the Final Four and more importantly, the national championship game, that's a kid that could steal the spotlight, right? Because we always talk about it in terms of the Heisman Trophy. It's the body of work. It's the story for potentially the previous season. Same thing in terms of these first 2 rounds. When you get a hot shooter, that could carry you, right? So that's something that I would look at. I typically don't jump into it because I'm really locked in terms of my Final Four. I still have my top 4 teams in the round of 16. I'm hoping to nail, Marquette as who I picked to potentially win it all. I got a good number at 31-1, but that's the way I would play it. If you're looking, that's a secondary option. If I don't think that maybe one of my players from the top 4 could steal it, maybe someone else, like I said, Duke with McCain, that kid is lights out right now.
Tell me, am I right here? Is it Marquette, Illinois, Bama, Gonzaga?
I have a ticket on Illinois, but my bracket is basically UConn, Marquette, Alabama, and Gonzaga. So that's what I have in terms of my Final Four. So I have all Final Four teams, and I have Marquette at 31-1. I have a Illinois ticket at 10-1 with a profit boost there. So hanging in.
How do you feel about Bama?
Again, defensive team in terms of Grand Valley State. They can run it. They can play a little up, slow down if they have to. They don't play a great defense, but I still like them. I think they're more under the radar this year than they were last year. More pressure on them. I equate Alabama to much like Gonzaga, playing with house money, Kev.
I think that's fair. And look, they handled their business in the first two rounds, and I think the North Carolina matchup, it works nicely for them. There's some value out there in the market in Bama. I talked about that before the Grand Canyon game. I hold a ticket on them from the preseason, but they have more juice, I think, than a lot of people give them credit for ultimately. Gonzaga's a similar situation. They have a lot of that juice. Joe, you know what? I might let you enjoy the rest of your night, pal. As fun as this was, I have national title odds. There's a lot of stuff here I got to do. But he's live tonight, would you believe it or not, on Carver and Lisi. You can catch him there at 8 p.m. Joe, appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The books have so much information. Now, the gamblers do as well, but it's coming down to sometimes coaching, sometimes, a good play, a good call. I mean, the block last night that was a block, it was called a foul.
Oh my God.
That was
Dude,
all
we would
ball.
see that highlight forever.
Yes.
And instead,
got robbed.
We'll never see it again.
Got robbed by a referee making, that's a ref.
They still covered, though.
They did cover.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. We're live on SportsGrid. I'm just a little behind the curtain. Lisi was told he was going to be here with us for consecutive segments, and he only found out that he could go at the end of that, and he was busy. He said he had errands to run. We called him in last second, and his face, it warms my heart. I love the guy. He's the best. We're going to get to the player of the tournament odds. I went through all 16 left, where there's value, where there's not. We'll go through that. Before we do that, again, tomorrow, Baseball Futures Show, really setting up the start of the season, and that's going to feature Craig Mish. I want to hear from him, though. Today, I got to speak to Alex Anthopoulos, the general manager of the Atlanta Braves, and here's a little snippet of their conversation from earlier today on Newswire.
Who shined to you this spring? And spring's kind of tight to sort of take those numbers into the regular season, but who did you see this spring that you really think we should be more focused on? Maybe somebody that's not been talked about that much heading into the season.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we have a lot of stars, so you can't be surprised. We've signed a lot of these guys, so we obviously believe in them, right? But I'd say the guys that have had the best springs, Strider's had a phenomenal spring, but I know people still use this in the Cy Young conversation last year, but phenomenal spring. And Harris has had a phenomenal spring. But like you said, it doesn't always correlate, right? But these are two super talented guys. And I would say conversely, the guys that didn't have great springs that are great players, I wouldn't lean in any of that as well. But I'd say those two guys have really jumped off the page this spring, wire to wire, have just had an exceptional spring.
And again, you will hear from Craig Mish tomorrow right here on Game Time Decisions, as well as Joe Pisapia, Donnie Rightside, and a few others as we get set for the baseball season to begin. Let's talk player of the tournament. 16 teams left. Obviously, the winner of this award is coming from that. I would say it is impossible for anybody to win this without getting to the Final Four, possibly the title game. You might be able to win it without winning a national championship, but I think that's true of only one player. And that is Zach Edey. I think it is possible that Zach Edey could win this award without winning the title. Purdue is plus 600. Edey is plus 650. There are occasions when we see this gap and we tell ourselves, oh, come on, just play Edey. There's no way it goes to anybody else. And then you go, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it when it's just plus 600? Is that, if you're a $100 better, those $50 worth of chance that Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer steals it? In this instance, not only is it worth it, but if we get to the title game, let's just say it's Purdue and UConn, and Zach Edey is averaging, let's just say he sticks with what he's at, 26.5 points per game on 68% shooting, chipping in 3 blocks and 17.5 rebounds. Are you sure that it won't be split enough through UConn guys where Zach Edey can't win this award? Are you sure that if it's Arizona, who would be the favorite from that West region, that Caleb Love will play well enough to deserve to win this award over Zach Edey? I'm not. It depends where you are at right now with your futures wagers. Let's say you have none, and you are only betting when the Sweet 16 begins. Zach Edey to win player of the tournament makes a world of sense. Anybody else is going to have to pull down this national title. That's the reality of it. So let's go through the teams. I've highlighted some, so I'm going to kind of move through some others quickly. Clemson. Ultimately, I don't see them winning a national title. Chase Hunter being 210-1, while P.J. Hall is 130-1, is wrong. Hunter's averaging 20 and 6 right now, 6 assists, while Hall's averaging 12.5 and 3. Ultimately, Hunter is a big part of the reason why they are here. I don't think either ticket is cashing. If you love this team to beat Arizona, then they could get to the Final Four, because UNC from the ACC they can hang with. Bama is vulnerable enough now with the remaining teams, but you have to really like this team to beat Arizona to place that ticket. San Diego State, LeDee, you could convince me is a worthwhile bet for this reason. So Edey, right? Plus 600 Purdue, plus 650 Edey. Next to no gap. LeDee is right now 95-1 to win player of the tournament. The Aztecs are 75-1. LeDee is the only option. Averaging so far through 2 tournament games, 29 points, 9 rebounds. Next closest score is 13 per game. In no world do the Aztecs cut down the nets and LeDee does not win player of the tournament
if it's an Aztec, since I've created that caveat that Edie could win it without a win. I think that's true. I think it's also true of Mark Sears. Alabama is 36-1 to win this title. Sears is at 55. Mark Sears is Edie level, Connect level, clearly better than everybody else. Estrada, right cell, can help up. Grant Nelson's been abysmal so far in this tournament. Mark Sears has been as good as any player so far through 2 games. Any player. So 55 compared to 36, that is a more than worthwhile wager if you don't have tickets yet. I'm holding a Bama preseason 50-1, so I'm not coming back in. But and I mentioned there was value on Bama before their game against Grand Canyon. But if you don't hold any futures, Sears at 55 makes a lot of sense. NC State, there are guys you can bet, but they're not going far enough. I apologize. They're just not. Houston has 3 guys you could look at in Cryer, Sharp, and then Shed. None of them are playing well enough for me to even consider this. And there's not enough of a gap for me to really want to be betting a Houston player. I'm good. I'm passing in that region completely. Dalton Connect is a very similar. If it's going to be Tennessee, it's going to be Dalton. They're 11-1. He's 16-1. It's just one of those things that if Zakai Ziegler has this preposterous Final Four 2 games, I don't see enough value there. If 11-1 is good enough instead of the 16-1, I'm passing on that. We mentioned the Creighton trio with Joe Lisi, 65-1 on Shireman, Trey Alexander, and Kalkbrenner. I think Kalkbrenner over there, not just 2 tournament games, but maybe the 5 or 6 included heading in, makes sense. I think he could play well against the Vols. I'm not betting any Creighton players because I'm invested in Tennessee. They're all 65, though. Let's just say you love Creighton. Let's say you are a Creighton national title backer because this team is 23-1, and you're getting 65, right? If you play one of them, I mean, you're getting nearly triple the number. You can play Creighton and one of the guys. If you love this Creighton team, pick your guy now. Pick your guy now, and you can add another one if you want. And if I had to pick one, it would be Kalkbrenner. Marquette is clearly Tyler Kolek. A 20-point double-double is just going to outweigh 25 a night, which is the best-case scenario for Cam Jones. He's not going to be able to cut into the Kolek workload. Iowa State right now, Lipsy has the edge over Gilbert, but they're the same price because Gilbert is close enough statistically through 2 games to pull away from Lipsy. I don't like Iowa State enough to be involved. McCain has jumped in front of where Kyle Filipowski would be. I say jumped in front. I know it's the first time we're seeing this market. Filipowski, of course, would have been booked in front of McCain. And the fact that McCain is 60-1 while averaging about 20 a game in this tournament, and Kyle Filipowski is 65 while averaging under 10, it lets you know they believe Filipowski would be the engine. I don't like the matchup for Duke against Houston, so for me, I move past that. The Zags, 3 legit guys. Graham Ike, Ryan Nembhard, and Anton Watson. Nembhard might be a guy you think, no way with the points, but double-digit dimes is double-digit dimes. Watson's having the best start to this tournament, but you're getting enough juice on Gonzaga's national title price for me that if you wanted to play them at 27, I might feel more comfortable. Nobody's pulled away. The Purdue game's going to be the swing anyway. If you think Ike could light them up for 24, then you play some Ike. If you think Nembhard bounces back points-wise, then you play some Nembhard. That's how you would approach that team. So what's left for us to discuss are 4 teams. Alabama, UConn, UNC, and then Illinois. The Illinois story is this. Shannon Jr. is the guy. I don't know if any of the off-court stuff could impact the voting. The Mosque so far, for over his last 4 games, has given you 18, 8, and 8, which is great. He's 70-1 if you like the Illinois pathway. UNC, RJ Davis is 16-1. Baycott's 55. Through 2 games, let's do 5 games from the ACC tournament to now. RJ Davis is giving you 23 a game with under 3 assists. Baycott's giving you 18 a night with 11 rebounds. It's close. So 55-1 on Baycott compared to 16 on Davis. Baycott's the bet. Who do you think has the bigger game against Bama? Baycott can dominate inside. Davis might score 35 with that tempo. Because I think Davis could score 35, I wouldn't touch Baycott. Because even if Baycott gets chopped down, and I think the game is vulnerable enough, but I wouldn't play RJ at 16 either. I would step back from that range right there. On Arizona, Caleb Love is clearly their guy. He's 16-1 compared to plus 850 to win the title. The problem is Caleb isn't playing well enough to bet this. Like Edey's playing well, Klingen's playing well, Shed is at least putting up overall fine enough numbers, right? But Caleb Love's not playing well enough to bet him. If you wanted to take a swing on Bayo or Ballo and hope that he can get you a nice double-double, that'd be wonderful, right? That'd be perfect if you were to play Umar Bayo at 47, but I don't love it. The best bet in this market is on a UConn Husky. The most value in this market is on a UConn Husky. And I will tell you about that after the break because I don't want to run short. And we will take that conversation and we will work our way into a nice breakdown of with Dave Sharapan and everything that he saw from the weekend that was. Quick update for you guys. Cavs Hornets, nightmare start, 20-all. Good thing it was a low total. Don't forget the women's college game is live right now. UConn trying to stave off Syracuse. Caitlin Clark and Iowa start in about 25 minutes. We'll keep breaking it down next year. It's Game Time Decisions.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
The books have so much information. Now, the gamblers do as well, but it's coming down to sometimes coaching, sometimes, a good play, a good call. I mean, the block last night that was a block, they were called a foul.
Oh my God.
That was
Dude,
all
we would
ball.
see that highlight forever.
Yes.
And instead, we
got robbed.
We'll never see it again.
Got robbed by a referee making, that's a ref.
They still covered, though.
They did. They did cover.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We're back with you right here on Sports Grid. It's Game Time Decisions. We're going to talk to Dave Sharapan in just a second, but I'd like to finish this out for the people. We went through the Brantley broken out Final Four most outstanding player market. And there's co-favorites on the board with Zach Edey and Donovan Clingan at plus 650. And this is where the value comes in on Tristan Newton. Donovan Clingan is being wildly overpriced for a phenomenal game that he played against Northwestern. 14 points, 14 rebounds, 8 blocks. Great stuff. The tournament stats for these two, the same amount of points per game. Clingan 16.5, Newton 16.5. 11 rebounds for Clingan, 9 assists for Newton. So we are dead even would be disingenuous because they would give it to Clingan if they were going to hand this out today. But we're right there. We're right there. Big East tournament. Donovan Clingan, 13.7 points per game, 9.3 rebounds, 2.7 blocks. Tristan Newton, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. Guess who won Big East tournament MVP? Tristan Newton. Guess who didn't make first or second all-team Big East? Donovan Clingan. Guess who was unanimous first-team Big East? Tristan Newton. Clingan has 3 games this season where he scored 20 or more points. Newton has 8. Newton has twice as many double-doubles as Donovan Clingan and multiple triple-doubles. It's a misprice. That's what it is. So we're always transparent. Let's get Dave in here because he's someone who can help me out with this stuff. Right now I'm trying to figure out math, okay? I have no UConn. Consig? I have no UConn. Great to see you, by the way. Sun stuff looks great. I have no UConn. I've intentionally had no UConn.
Mm-hmm.
But they then hung the Tristan Newton number, which I think is wildly off base. So we're now at a point where I'm trying to, okay, so I had this ticket, this is versus this is worth this. Okay, so we do this, and you just figure out what you can play it for. If you have no bets in the tournament, this is easy. Just bet Tristan Newton.
Yeah.
Figure that out. Yeah. We figured that out.
Yep.
That's what I'm working through right now. But Consig, from a value angle, Tristan Newton has the most of it for me in this tournament. Outstanding player market.
Nothing more than I love when you start talking with your hands and start looking like a conductor, directing this. I got this over here and this over here. I really enjoy when you get crazy and start going like that. If you think they're getting to the Final Four, you got to have a piece of one. And if you think they shot at winning it, you're getting double the price that they are right now. I didn't look yet today of what they're adjusted to overall to win it, but they've been the favorite. What is it?
Plus 210.
That's it? What are we doing, K-Dub? Did they already win? Did they already get through Boston? They got 2 more games. Plus 210.
Well, that's why you can't. It's an unbettable number.
It's unbettable. It's right. Wow.
But 10-1 on the guy who's been labeled their best player by voters, we'll call it, that's way different. You know, Purdue has plus 650, Zach Edey, they're 6-1 to win the title. That's how it should be. Right?
You just don't like the big men. You're anti-big
true.
man. You like to dribble back behind the 3 and shoot. I mean, you're a guard by heart.
You missed
like the big man.
Now listen, I know you're busy. This means you weren't locked in last segment. I said Zach Edey can win this award without winning the tournament. I think Edey should have a shorter price than the Purdue national title market.
Purdue doesn't win the tournament and Edey can win?
Yes.
This award? Really?
There's precedent. It's happened. They have to get to the game.
They have to get to the final, right?
Agree completely.
Okay.
Agree completely. Okay. Let me just say, let's say they play UConn, right?
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, we're watching that game, and me and you were in the room debating Clingan and Newton.
Okay.
2 guys that are averaging 17 points and a touch under a double-double. And the other guy is averaging 28-16 with 3 blocks and shooting 68% from the field.
I mean, if we're debating what they're going to vote, I mean, that's like, you know, if you based on the numbers, you give it to that guy with those numbers. That's, I mean, the numbers. But they don't always vote that way, K-Dub. How many times has it happened where the team that lost in the championship game, the guy won the most
It hasn't happened since Hakeem, 1982. But I think what jumps off the page here,
wow,
no doubt. But here, what jumps off the page to me. So if you just look through if you look through the remaining 8 teams that Purdue could see, right?
Okay.
So let's go through them all. This stuff's the best. Let's go through them all. Okay? If Purdue plays Clemson, well, let's be honest, you're going to be delighted with the ticket. So with respect, we're going to move that along, okay? If they play Arizona, it would be either what Caleb Love puts up or what Zach Edey puts up. Now, Caleb would have a chance. He's got to start playing much better, right?
Yeah.
But it's an interesting spot, right? Caleb would have a good chance, though. But he's got to start playing much better. If UConn gets there, we just said they're amazing, but they've got 4 of the top 5 guys inside that market.
Options.
A lot of figuring it out. San Diego State has the guy in Ledee, no doubt. We got to figure it out. SDSU has the guy in Ledee, but with respect, similar to Clemson, if you take Zach Edey's plus 650 into that game, you're happy about it.
Yes.
You're fine with that.
Yes.
And, again, I think Ledee would win it because here's why Ledee would win it. Let's just forget hedging. If San Diego State beats Purdue, nobody's going to feel sorry for Zach Edey. That's on him. He should have beat San Diego State, right? If Zach Edey loses to UConn, people are like, oh, all right, well, there's nothing he can do. If Bama wins it, it's going to Mark Sears, right? If Illinois wins it, Shannon Jr., Domask, that's interesting. North Carolina has R.J. Davis. You would think that he would be able to get it. Iowa State, I mean, their lead guy's giving you 13 tonight. I'm not giving it to Keyshawn Gilbert. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So I think when you look at it, again, because we agree they have to get to the title game, right? But first of all, how many teams are laying to them in the title game? Only UConn. So
that's it.
That's a headshot. And I think it's reasonable that he wins player of the tournament in a loss to UConn.
It's possible. Not likely, but possible. I mean, that was a long time that Akeem did it. That's a long time ago. Things have changed a lot since then. I don't know.
Is
it's not that it's out of the realm of possibility. It's just it's so long since it's happened that voters would probably just go, give it to the guy.
Hold on. You know, it's funny, though. When was the last time someone won Player of the Year back-to-back years? Because he's about to do that.
Know.
It was like 84, 85, I think, with Sampson.
That's that long ago? Wow. Well, they don't stay at school to win it back-to-back, but that's...
Well, that's the thing. He is an outlier. He's a complete outlier.
Yeah.
And that's... I'm not sitting here... See, because I don't want to waste anybody's time. You know, if Caleb Love averages 35 from here on out, he could win it in a loss. That's a waste of your time. That's a total waste of your time because no, he can't. Because he's not going to average 35 the rest of the way here on out. And also, even then, nobody would care. Nobody cares with, again, not being rude, no one cares about Caleb Love that enough.
No.
Zach Edey has been the most important player in college basketball for 700 days. That matters.
That does matter.
So that's the only reason I throw him out there, Dave. What else did you take away from the tournament's opening weekend? Was it bad for books as much as people say?
I mean, the money line parlay is all built up. I mean, I don't know when the last time it happened where 15 of the 16 games on a weekend, the favorites won on the money line.
Yeah.
There was only one favorite that didn't win. Baylor lost to Clemson. So, yeah, there's no sympathy for the books. Listen, the people need one every once in a while. It's fine. The books will be okay. They had a really good football season. Everything's good. Books, it was hopping. I mean, I was popping around. We did our live shows at Resorts World. The place was packed. And then I went around to a couple other books to see some guys about some things. And it was a very festive atmosphere. I mean, the Big Ten, listen, the Wisconsin fans were bummed out. The Kansas fans were decimated. I mean, they were just completely bummed out. The Mountain West people, like this is a Mountain West town, and the only team, there's only one team left playing, but UNLV's having a better run in the NIT. That's the buzz around town here. I mean, they got a shot at winning it. They got to play Seton Hall. That's going to be a hell of a basketball game on Wednesday.
No. 3.5?
Yeah. I need you to do some pre-con.
Wow.
Get JY on that thing. They're playing in the women's gym in a bandbox. It's supposed to be a big home court advantage for Seton Hall.
Wake Forest loses. That's funny. I told you I never ended up playing those futures. Wake ends up losing their second home game all season in this tournament. Doesn't make it out of the second round. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. I didn't play it. All good. All good. No sweat off my back. Didn't happen as far as my eyes see it. Let me throw this to you quickly.
Yeah.
How much, and they do this intentionally and it makes sense. There's games tonight and then potentially, so there's games tonight, there was games Sunday. Like 8 o'clock tonight, Caitlin Clark's playing, right? I mean, all the books now are hanging Caitlin Clark props.
You have to. Demand.
Where's it landing action-wise on a slate like tonight? 2 hockey. The NBA board's atrocious.
Oh, it's tough board to. There probably won't be as much handle on that in a lot of places as there is on the Brooklyn-Toronto game. I just picked a game that started already and a below-average NBA game. Listen, there's real fatigue, K-Dub. There's a lot of people left, heading back to the airport here on Sunday and just fatigued from basketball. It is wall-to-wall basketball for 4 days. And, you forget things like Houston. The Rockets have won, 8 in a row, 9 in a row. They're playing tonight. Everybody kind of wakes up today and goes, wow, what happened to the other sports for 4 days? I hadn't been paying any attention. So minimal handle today, minimal handle tomorrow as everybody ramps up to Thursday. I mean, I'm excited. I told somebody today, and I told Perrault on the show, we were talking about it today on BVB, the games are going to get so good. Not that we didn't have a lot of good games over the weekend, but the teams are good teams. We got a lot of good quality basketball teams. Thursday and Friday is going to be electric. A lot of juice.
A lot of juice. I think it's going to be interesting to see where these lines settle. It's just, with all these top teams remaining, was a window missed? Are we actually going to get all? Because people are like, we got chalk. Relax. We didn't get.
Calm down.
Okay. All the one seeds and 2 seeds are here. All right. How many did you think were going to be gone? 2 of them.
Right.
Relax.
2 most.
Relax.
What 1 seed is out first, K-Dub, as of today, in your mind? Which 1 seed is out first? Houston?
Purdue, but I like Gonzaga. No, Houston matches up well with Duke, I think. Dave, guess what? We're doing baseball tomorrow. See you then. Best bet on the other way out.
Tournament, they win it, then they go into the NCAAs, and they put up a bucket load of points. They have looked fantastic. That's not the team that I saw in the regular season.
All those people that had all that extra time because of those COVID seasons is going to be gone, and you're not going to really have the 23, 24, 25-year-old basketball players running around anymore. You're not going to have it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the book.
The books have so much information. Now, the gamblers do as well, but it's coming down to sometimes coaching, sometimes, a good play, a good call. I mean, the block last night that was a block, it was called a foul.
Oh, my God.
My God, that was
Dude,
all
we would
ball.
see that highlight forever.
Yes.
And instead, we
got robbed.
We'll never see it again.
Got robbed by a referee making, that's a ref.
They still covered, though.
They did. They did cover.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
I think JMU is going to knock off Wisconsin. I think JMU, with the way that they can score the ball and spread you out, Wisconsin struggles to defend. They're in the bottom third in defensive efficiency.
Iowa State's not going to beat you with offense necessarily. They're just not. Illinois will beat you with offense. I like Illinois. I don't love them enough to beat UConn. You got to guard at some point. Give me Connecticut to make the Final Four.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smarty.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live. Prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live. Overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh with you. We close it out. Up next, Endgame Live. Make sure you are dialed in right here on the grid as the coverage continues throughout the night. It's a big week here on SportsGrid because on Thursday, it jumps off the page. With the beginning of the Major League Baseball season, officially, not the two games that were completely, what that may be nice. Baseball begins Thursday, and then tournament coverage picks back up. Live out of New York City with Ben Stevens and Coach James Young. I'll be back Friday night. You will see me tomorrow, and then you'll see me again Friday night right here with myself, Donnie, and I believe Coach James Young will be in the fold a bit. But I just want to let people know, because if you want to be set for the baseball season, tomorrow, Joe Pisapia, Craig Mish, Donnie Rightside, all locked in. We're going to have baseball futures, a World Series pick. I'm debating still because I'm a little annoyed about the buys and the way those worked out. All right, but we'll figure it out. Some stolen base props. There's going to be good stuff on the board. All right, let's do a best bet for the NBA, and then maybe I'll show you my swing. Desmond Bain, over 2.5 made threes, plus money. What's that about? It's the book's overreacting just a bit. 2 games under. Now he comes back and hits this over like he did in his first game back from injury. The key here is the opportunity for Bain. 31 games without John Morant. 20 of them he's made 3 or more threes. More importantly, volume. 9 attempts in 2 of the 3 games since returning. And you could potentially bank on more tonight in a game with the Denver Nuggets. Desmond Bain this season, 18-3. 18-3 over 2.5 made threes in games where he attempts at least 9 from beyond the arc. That is what you will see tonight. Caps Hornets is live right now. It's going not great. That's okay. It means maybe 2-0 the rest of the board then with Jazz Mavericks over 238. All right, let's line up my swing. I haven't swung in a while. I was golfing this weekend. Would you believe that? I was golfing this weekend. Can I still get in the batter's box here? It doesn't look bad. It doesn't look half bad, I'll tell you that. We'll knock it out of the park tomorrow. With game time decisions, the baseball futures are going to be live and popping for you here on SportsGrid. We'll see you then with a little game time decisions. Best of luck tonight in Game Live tonight.